Well, hello, I'm Robert Sumwalt, and I'm a board member with the National Transportation Safety Board. I'd like to introduce the investigator in charge, Mr. Dick Hibskin, who is standing right here. Dick is leading the investigation. Today has been a very busy day. We've got a lot going on. As you know, the NTSB arrived here, landed at Fargo about 9:15 this morning, and just a lot going on. Let me tell you what we know at this point. We'll talk about the two trains. First of all, the westbound train, which was the one carrying the grain. We say it's a grain train. It was carrying soybeans. It originated in Royal, Nebraska, and was destined for Rivergate, Washington. It had 112 cars on it and 3 locomotives. In each of the trains, each train had 3 locomotives, 2 on the front end of the train and 1 on the rear of the train. The oil train was headed in an easterly direction. It originated in Fryeburg, North Dakota, and was destined for Hayti, Missouri. It had 106 cars, 3 locomotives, the same configuration, 2 on the front and 1 on the rear. Of the 106 cars, 104 contained the product, the crude oil. They put a buffer car between the product and the locomotive. So there was a buffer car filled with sand at the front between the 2 locomotives and the beginning of the product, and 1 at the rear of the train as well. The crew of the grain train, they started their duty day at 12:15 on the day of the accident, 12:15 p.m. in Dilworth, Minnesota. They were going to Minot, and the accident, of course, occurred at about 2:10 p.m., so they had been on duty just basically 2 hours, 1 hour and 55 minutes. The oil train crew, they started their duty day at 6:10 in the morning, 6:10 a.m., in Mandan, North Dakota, destined for Dilworth. And so they've been on duty just basically 8 hours. I'd like to talk about the recorders. I'll first talk about the event recorders, and then I want to talk about forward-facing video cameras. The oil train, and each locomotive, each engine of trains in the U.S. has an event recorder. So on the oil train, it had event recorders in each of the 2 front-end locomotives. Unfortunately, the 2 front locomotives were severely damaged, severely burned, and so at this point we are not optimistic that we will be able to retrieve data from those recorders. We don't think that they likely survived due to the fire. But the good news is that the trailing locomotive on the oil train, it was not damaged at all. So we are highly optimistic that we will be able to recover data from those event recorders. And we hope to be able to report to you the status of that tomorrow. And these recorders are very important because they provide a window into the performance of the train. So I'll switch now from event recorders and talk about the forward-facing video cameras on each of the trains. So each of the BNSF trains had a forward-facing video camera. The data from these forward-facing video cameras is uplinked almost continuously, automatically. And we were able to obtain some of this video. We will be looking at more of it. Again, we're just in the very beginning stages of the investigation, but today we looked at the last 20 seconds of the forward-facing video from the oil train. And basically, this shows it shows the collision sequence. We will take this video information and correlate it with all of our other data sources. Now, the grain train, we of course think that we should be able to get three event recorders, one from each of the locomotives, and the forward-facing camera. So we think we will have multiple sources of data to help with our investigation. Let's talk about track for a minute. Along the track, we are looking for wheel marks to indicate the point of derailment. We'll be looking at marks on the wooden cross ties as well as marks on the rail itself to look for the point of derailment. We've also requested data from the Hotbox detectors. Now, there are Hotbox detectors. There was one 4 miles east of the accident location. These Hotbox detectors are located periodically on railroads, and they are there to measure look for hot wheels and hot axles, as well as any dragging equipment. And so we've requested the data from that particular Hotbox. That one, again, was 4 miles east of the point of derailment, or 4 miles east of the pileup, approximately. And so we're looking to see if the grain train may have had any hot brakes, or excuse me, hot wheels, hot axles, or any dragging equipment. Future plans. Well, the day is still young. Tonight we will be holding our organizational meeting. That's where we will establish our investigative protocols and establish parties to the investigation. Tonight we will also be getting updates from the various technical groups that are out there in the fields working today. It's only 4:30 in the afternoon, and they will work until about 5 and then come back, and we'll have an organizational meeting where they will tell us, update us on what's happened over the last few hours. We plan to conduct the crew interviews on Thursday. We will continue the retrieval. The retrieval of the tank cars is ongoing. We will take the event recorders and send them to our labs in Washington, D.C. for readout and analysis. And we formulated a list of documents that we are requesting BNSF to provide to us. The incident command estimated that about 65% of the residents, 65% of the roughly 2,500 residents of Casselton evacuated voluntarily. And the incident command officially lifted the evacuation at 3 o'clock this afternoon. And this will allow us, now that the evacuation order has been lifted, it means that the site is safe for our investigators to get in and get a really close and up-personal view of the actual wreckage. All of these other activities have been done on the periphery of the wreckage, so now that the evacuation order is lifted, we should be able to get in and get up close and personal. So today has been very busy. Very busy first day. Tomorrow will be very busy. We think it will be productive as well. So that's what I've got to tell you, and I'd be glad to take your questions at this time. Yes, ma'am.
Do you have an idea of the timeline between the derailment and the second train hitting?
Do we have an idea of the time that elapsed between the derailment of the grain train and the collision with the collision of the oil train? We do not have. We have not pinned that down right now, but that is certainly something that our investigation will be looking at. We're very interested to know how much time elapsed between those two. Yes, sir.
Sir, can you describe the collision itself, which cars on the oil train, in position, where they were hit? How did the train then separate the cars that were on fire or exploding from the rest of the train? How did all that take place?
The question is, can I describe where the struck train got struck and the collision sequence and things like that? What we do know is that the grain train, there was one car that had in particular sort of gone over onto the opposing track, and it had fouled that track. So when the oil train came, it struck that particular car, and that car was located approximately halfway in the consist of the train. So that's really what we know at this point. We will be doing a further analysis once we look at the damage patterns and then compare that to the actual consist to see what we can learn from that. And then again, we have that forward-facing video camera, which will tell us a lot. As far as the actual conflagration, how that occurred, that will be part of our analysis to understand that.
But you do know that the oil train hit the car from the grain train. The engine from the oil train hit the car from the grain train. From the video that you
and to be clear, it was the engine of the oil train that struck this midpoint car of the grain train. So yes, sir. Thank you for that follow-up question. Yes, sir.
So this morning you talked a little bit about the type of car involved and the
Yes.
hazard classification. Are you able to give us more detail on that?
Yes, you had asked this morning, the question is what type of cars were involved of carrying the crude oil. They were the DOT 111 cars, and this morning we said we did not know whether or not any of them had been modified or the newest versions of the DOT 111 cars. And the answer to that is our preliminary information is that none of the cars were of the newer design of the DOT 111 cars.
How about hazard classification? Are you able to...
You know, hazard classification, I told you this morning that I'd get that for you, and I apologize, I have that information, but I don't have it with me right now. But it was, let's see, it was classified as a UN 1297. It was classified in the category 3, which means that it's flammable, and in the what's the last coding there? It's it was a number 1, and I forget what they call that last coding there, but it was number 1, which is the most extreme of those codes. So it was flammable, number 3. That means 3 means flammable, and then in the I forget what that terminology is, but the last number was a 1, which again means that it's the most volatile of that particular UN 1297. So I said I didn't have it. That's from memory there, and I wish I had the exact vernacular of that last area.
Can you tell us yet how that'll play a part in the investigation?
Well, how will all of this play a part in the investigation? So we will be, it's like a jigsaw puzzle. We're going to take all of the information and piece it together in our analysis phase and see how it all fits together. So that's what we will do. As I mentioned this morning, we are here just to collect the information, the perishable information. Already the tank cars will start to be moved and things like that. So we want to get that information while it's still available. But things like going back and doing the analysis and figuring the impact sequence, that can be done and will be done later on. I'll take 2 more questions, so we'll come here and then we'll come here.
How critical is that rail line to oil transport, and if and how are shipments being rerouted?
Well, how critical is that rail to oil transport? I think the best people to talk to about that would be the railroad itself. We're here to conduct the investigation of the accident, but the railroad would have the best information concerning that. And one last question here.
Was there any sort of emergency message sent out at the time of the derailment to the oncoming train?
Was there any type of an emergency message that came out from either of the trains, especially the rail train? We'll be looking at that. We'll be interviewing the dispatcher. We'll be interviewing the crews to find out what actions they took immediately after the derailment. So we'll be looking at that. We'll have perhaps recordings from the dispatcher, the rail traffic controller, and the crew, and then we'll also interview them as well. So Eric will talk to you about updates. We will keep you posted on future media briefings through Twitter. Our handle is @NTSB, and you can follow us on our webpage, www.ntsb.gov. Thank you very much.